Imagine there are good paying jobs available, but no one in that job market with the training or background to fill the positions. That's not a good recipe for economic health or growth, but that's exactly a problem facing Massachusetts these days. The Commonwealth is working to address this situation at both the executive and legislative level, and Connecting Point correspondent Carolee McGrath spoke with State Senator Eric Lesser to learn more.
Across the state of Massachusetts, over the next 10 years, there are going to be 44,000 vacant positions in skilled manufacturing. This is not your grandfather's manufacturing. This isn't sitting in a greasy room pulling a crank all day. This is highly skilled work, actually operating the computers and the back-end components that operate multi-million-dollar pieces of machinery, things like making components for wind turbines or making components for medical equipment, sonar equipment, highly specialized, highly skilled manufacturing techniques. And importantly, these are very well-paying jobs. In the next 10 years, as we mentioned, 44,000 vacant positions in this field. These are also jobs that can pay average wages of up to $75,000 a year. So think about the lost productivity for us if we allow 44,000 positions making those types of salaries in the $70,000 a year range to go unfilled. Think about the homes that can't be purchased, the families that won't be able to be supported, all the economic opportunity and output that creates for our region. It's particularly important for us in Western Mass because we lie at the center here in Springfield of a 100-mile industrial corridor up and down the Connecticut River. This is where George Washington put the armory. We have Smith & Wesson here. We had Indian Motorcycles, American Bosch, Monsanto, you name it. So we actually have a lot of people here locally in the valley who have these skills. So we need to do a better job of connecting the workers to the companies and the employers looking for those workers.
I think that's a big part of the task is making that connection. And I know the governor came out yesterday with the $9.3 million in workforce skills equipment grants to local companies. I'm sure you're happy about that. Local schools, I should say. Yeah.
So one of the beneficiaries of that is the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative, which is based in West Springfield, but is a collaborative effort of area school districts. Minnechaug participates, Longmeadow participates, East Longmeadow participates. Communities up and down the valley, all around Hampden County area, send their students. The way this works is the kids take their normal academic classes in the morning, then they get on buses and they go over to the LPVEC, they call it, and they get specialized training in different areas. So one of the grants that we worked on, funding we worked on the legislative cycle last year that the governor just announced, is a brand new program there for machine shop training. So this would be things like CNC grinding, tool and die making. My own grandfather was a tool and die maker, so I know the field a little bit. So the idea is they will go, they're going to get the training on this new equipment that this state money supports, and very importantly, we're doing this to break down the traditional gaps between the education and the employers. So we're going to be bringing employers into the school. We're going to make sure that the people training and teaching the students on this equipment actually work in the surrounding economy so that we can plug these students into career track positions right after they graduate.
Is it a hard sell when you go into different schools with some kids? Because I'm sure some kids have no idea about it or think, oh, I'm going to work in a factory. They don't have a concept of what kind of promise that might have.
That is one of our challenges, frankly, is people just don't know about this industry and about the potential for really living a very good life from this field. I think one of the things we need to do is a better job of explaining to students and often their parents and family members that, look, this isn't your grandfather's manufacturing. This is a high-tech job. You're operating CAD/CAM, you're operating computer systems to design the equipment before you actually make it. You need math skills, you need basic algebra, geometry skills, you need drafting skills, you need to be able to read and understand technical manuals and instructions. So this is a high-tech, knowledge-based field, and the work conditions are actually very good. Everything's got to be clean because you're dealing with very specialized equipment, and it can be very lucrative. And there's a path here And this is where you can get students is after 10, 15-week training program, you can come out with a clear path to a very solid middle-class job without $100,000 in debt, without lengthy and expensive college, student loan payoffs.
Right, and let's talk
that's
about
big
that a
piece.
little bit, because some of the kids that we had interviewed last year up at Franklin County Technical High School, a vocational technical high school, came out with like $18 an hour. So a 17, 18-year-old comes out,
Right.
and then the company is giving them all sorts of additional training.
Exactly.
Knowing the college debts that kids are carrying, do you think this might catch on as a viable option for them?
I do, and if you look at, we really need to do a lot, I think, in Western Mass to expand our growth rate, to get our economy moving faster. So when you're doing that, you have to ask yourself, well, what are we traditionally good at? We are a traditional center of manufacturing. It's in our blood here in the Pioneer Valley. And a lot of these businesses that do this manufacturing work are family-owned businesses. They've been in families for generations. They're handed down from parent to child. They're invested in the community, and they're invested in their employees. That is very important. So it's a good point you bring up. So yes, you might come out of high school, do a 10, 12-week training program at one of our community colleges, start at $18, $19 an hour, which is a decent wage
for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. No student loans,
Right.
no lengthy payoff, interest rates that are so high. And the important thing is there's a path to expanding your skills, growing, building more responsibility, supervising other workers, and getting that salary even higher. And I think once people understand that, you see the interest level rise. So another reason behind that is why we're doing things like better mentorship programs, getting these local businesses into schools and vice versa, breaking down some of the traditional barriers between our curriculum development and our local workforce. We can't do enough of that, frankly, because you're right, that is right now one of the big limiting factors is people just don't know how fulfilling of a career you can have in this field.
And especially, it's a path to the middle class for many
Yep.
families as well. And I think they might not realize that that is an option.
Exactly. That was my family story. I came from an immigrant family. My great-grandparents came from Italy and from Russia, settled in New York. My grandfather was a tool and die maker at a factory in Brooklyn, back when they made things in Brooklyn. I think it's probably
It's a
some
good place.
fancy loft
Yeah.
now, but it was a factory when he was there. On my grandfather's side, my mother's side, my grandfather was a longshoreman, worked on the Brooklyn Navy Yard. My father drove a taxi cab in New York, then worked his way through medical school, became a doctor, moved here to Western Mass. So that's the American story. We made things in this country, and we still do make things.
And need to make them.
And we need to keep making things. And that's why I'm proud to chair, on the Senate side, the Manufacturing Caucus, which tries to coordinate the efforts in the legislature of all of these different programs around manufacturing. Because it's one thing if I go in as one senator of 40 asking for attention on these programs. If we put a caucus together, a group of senators from all over the state who care about this issue, speak with one voice, we can get even more done.
Senator Eric Lesser, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.